All right. So I wanted to just reiterate, this is a pilot. So anything that you have or any ideas, we are open to them, because we are, very early in the stages of, just trying to get this into different schools. Yeah, I am Candace Samuel, so I will start us off. With Capital One, I am actually an Agile delivery lead. Just recently stepped into more of a chief of staff role, but it seems as though I cannot leave Agile at all. Agile is part of my life and has been since I first heard about it back in maybe 2012. I try to put it in any part of my life that I can, just to try to make me a little bit saner with 2 kids and being a mother and a wife. Honestly, it helps my life be easier. So I saw how the benefit was in school, or I'm sorry, at work. So just wanted to try to implement it at home, and definitely have been successful doing it. So our mission with Agile for Learners is pretty much to inspire students and teachers by educating, mentoring, and empowering them to be successful in a project-based learning, and improve their communication skills using Agile, all while incorporating the Virginia 5 Cs. So all of the schools that we have worked with are Virginia schools, and part of the curriculum, actually, I do believe it's not just here in Virginia, but I do believe it's a national thing. But specifically here in Virginia, they focus on all of the schools, elementary, middle, and high school, focus on, developing those 5 Cs with the kids. And we have those 5 Cs are the critical thinkers, collaborators, communicators, creators, and citizens. So we try to basically incorporate that in everything that we do to help them, develop their future ready skills for, when the time that the students graduate. So our learning objectives for the actual program is essentially to share those principles and practices that can be applied in the school setting so that the students can be successful with any project that they take. So that's why we try to make sure that we try, to get them in school. Also think about, we would love to be able to take some things in the home and maybe even expand it even further to work with some kids in their homes and implement it there. But, we're taking this one step at a time. So just to elaborate on those critical, those 5 Cs, so you guys can see here, just a couple of things about those 5 Cs. So those critical thinkers, we're really trying to help them identify issues and formulate questions for investigation, apply, analyze, interpret, and evaluate, and also reflect on their own thinking. So that's what we mean by critical thinkers. And for those collaborators, we want to make sure that they can work together and to support a common goal. And also share responsibility, value, and search out diversity and opinions, perspectives, and abilities. So for our communicators, what we're trying to develop in them is actively listen for understanding, just recognize and effectively use verbal and nonverbal cues, provide and receive constructive feedback, as well as ask clarifying questions and recognize their gaps in knowledge and understanding. For the creators, we just try to help them build on the past and embrace new ideas, which is very important. A lot of times we will get stuck in, the regular, kind of like the mom passing down, generations after generation of a recipe. There sometimes we can add to it and make it better. So we just try to help them, look at the past, build on the past, and embrace new ideas, and also employ their imagination with confidence. That is one big thing that, I know as adults, we kind of get out of, that whole imagination thing. But we try to build their confidence and help them, employ their imagination, and also demonstrate resourcefulness, which is definitely important. And then the last thing are the citizens. So we try to help them demonstrate trustworthiness, respectfulness, fairness, responsibility, and caring. As well as appreciate democratic values and institutions, and also recognize diversity as a strength. That is definitely important, especially in this day and age. So many people have things to offer, and as you guys know, being on a team, just the more diversity that you have on the team, more perspectives, the greater the outcome. All right, how we got started. I apologize if you guys can't see this up here. Okay, there we go. All right, so okay, good. It all started by having a conversation in the home with, we had Jim Frago, who is he's a parent teacher in our Goochland County schools, which is right outside of Richmond. actually where one of our Capital One locations are. And then we also had a Capital One employee actually just discussing in the class, discussing at home, over dinner, talking about Agile. And I can definitely relate because my husband actually is an assistant principal. I have been a Scrum Master, project manager in this realm for quite some time. And, any way that I can try to help him, get more organized as a person and hearing different things at their school that they do, it really rang true to me. That's why I wanted to get involved in this program, because I believe in it, just not for a school, a work setting. I believe in it in any setting that applies where you have a common goal to achieve. So, basically we had Kristen and Jim came together and they made the proposal to Joe Beasley. Joe Beasley implemented the pilot in the Beauchamp County schools. And then in 2017, Dr. Lane actually asked, Dr. Lane is the superintendent, I believe now, for Virginia schools. But he actually asked Capital One to come at the time when he was in Chesterfield to come and help with some Agile leadership programs there. So to basically help them educate and coach some of the leaders of the school system on Agile. And then in 2018, Mike Vizdos, he taught CSM classes to several teachers and staff at Code RVA. And Code RVA is a school here in Richmond, Virginia, that is basically a magnet school that is specifically for coding high school. So teaching the high school students specifically coding and software development, and also why not implement Agile and Scrum and teach them how to actually do projects more effectively. So that all led up to 2019, where we had a product management class, and some attendees attend and basically brainstorm on some school concepts. And then in April of 2019, Dr. Lane, who's the superintendent at that point, he basically met with Capital One to work with, figure out how we can actually spread this Agile methodology into the schools. And hence August of 2019, which was, does not seem like it was so long ago, but it kind of was. But we had our first Agile for Learners pilot program, where we brought some teachers from the RVA schools, and we brought them into one of our buildings, one of our nicest buildings down in Richmond City, and basically we taught them all about Agile. Now, with the program, being that it is a pilot, we are still learning different things that we need. We're definitely learning that and building that as we go. Some of the things that we have recognized that we do need are some volunteers. Okay, got you. All right, so we definitely want to make sure that we have some school leads. Those school leads will be pretty much in charge of setting up all the logistics with the schools, so that everything is pretty much seamless, and working with those administrators of that school to make sure that the program actually goes smoothly. So we also have content builders. So we have a teacher stream, and then we have a student stream. And so basically our idea with what we just implemented this year, well, technically late last year, was to teach the teachers how to, all about Agile and implementing and how to implement Agile. And then in turn, they would be able to help us with the students, train the students. So we have content builders for both the teachers and the students. So those are the actual, the decks that we go over with the students. And then we also have a volunteer lead, which Clinton is on the phone right now. That is definitely becoming a big thing. Just, trying to train all the volunteers and recruiting all the volunteers, and just, getting their buy-in so that they could actually dedicate the time, because this is actually stuff that is being done during the day, especially for the students. So as you can imagine, trying to do your regular job that you get paid for, but then doing anything afterwards is, always hard to get people to buy in and stick with it, especially nowadays when you have folks working from home and being teachers at the same time. So, that's definitely been a huge uphaul. So I really appreciate Clinton for all the work that he's been doing. And then also we have the teacher and student volunteer trainers. So we have those folks that come in and basically help and make sure that the teachers and the students are good to go on, what they actually need to teach. And then we have the actual Agile trainers. So we will have the folks that will come in and pretty much help them while they're actually in the schools. Then we have the teacher classroom agile coaches, which we are trying to build that up as well. And then we have the Zoom coordinators. So as we're going through this, we realized the need of making everything virtual as we changed everything over towards the end of this year. So of course, everything before, prior to what we were doing this year, in 2020, everything was in person. So we had to convert everything to virtual. So with that, we definitely understood the need to have a very experienced, trained Zoom coordinator. All right, and I will actually give it over to Patty. Take a little breath for me, and Patty will go ahead and take over and start talking for you guys.
Hello, I'm Patty Thompson. I'm also an Agile Delivery Lead at Capital One, and I've been pretty much all in on Agile for quite a while. I've completely drunk the Kool-Aid, and I never want to go back to traditional project management, though it has its place. But I started becoming involved with the Agile for Learners program in the 2019 pilot with the students, but there was a pilot first with the teachers in August. I think Candace told you a little bit about that one. And then we followed up with a student pilot at Code RVA High School. And Code RVA, I think Candace told you a little bit about it. It's an innovative high school focused on preparing students for college and careers in computer science and coding. The students have the opportunity to get an associate's degree at the same time they graduate from college, if they so desire. So the students are selected to attend from all the surrounding counties in the Richmond area. And the school has the goal to address socioeconomic, gender, and racial inequalities in STEM-related education. So they carefully select to make sure they have good representation. We did 3 classes in the freshman class in all of Code RBA in one big group. We had some learnings from that as we needed to make it a little smaller, but we'll talk about that later. And then a nice celebration on our Capital One campus, which is a pretty amazing campus. So out of that, we got quite a few students who wanted to come work at Capital One, and hopefully they will someday. And with them and our, I guess, celebration we had, there were 35 chaperones and volunteers, plus the students, which I think it was near 100. So that was my first big exposure, and gosh, I've been in love with the program ever since. Okay, and then here in our 2021 pilots, what we have planned, and some are in progress, we plan to go back to Code RVA and to the Richmond Public School governors, STEM academies, and teachers for the 9th graders. But we haven't done that quite yet. We are currently piloting with Richmond Public Schools STEM Academy teachers and middle school students. And this one is our first virtual pilot. So again, we have a few more learnings from that. And additionally, we're in discussions with Richmond Public Schools to support their curriculum building activities. And these are the people who determine, you know, what will be taught in the schools. So we plan to partner with them, and we've started building up our volunteers to help support that new program. And Candace, oh, mindfulness, I forgot that one. Sorry, go back just a second, Candace. We have a slew of volunteers from Capital One. This is a very popular volunteer program, and I love that Capital One encourages us to volunteer and even rewards us for it. We also have a mindfulness exercise and class that we're offering this year. We'll see how that goes. It'll be our first time, and I love the instructor, and I think they will find it very valuable. So we're really excited to add that in this year. Okay, now I'm ready, Candace. Sorry about that. So we had a hard time at first deciding exactly what we were going to teach. I think I initially thought we were going to make Scrum Masters out of these students, and realized that we needed something a little more targeted and usable for them. So with Code RVA's help, we learned to focus on helping the students and the teachers with their projects. So we never talk about the Agile Manifesto or the 12 principles or anything like that. We get very tactical with them. And this is our current modules that we teach and how we do it. The first one is teamwork and norms. So we have them do some activities virtually right now to figure out and kind of create a demand for a framework to help them work better in teams. And the activity we're doing is they're assembling cars from paper cutouts on a Jamboard. And we give them strict rules on only one person can work at a time. And this is what the first person does, and then the second. And they find that a bit frustrating, which is the idea. And then we let them do a second go round. Okay, this time you decide how you're going to do it. And the lesson they take from that, or we want them to take from that, is my favorite one is that teams themselves will figure out the best way to do the work. And it might be different from team to team. It's also a bonding activity, and so is the other one in this session, which is having them choose a name and then define their norms. How do they want to behave in the groups? And establishing that, without some set of rules and expectations, they won't work so well as a group. And also that those may change out over time. So that's our first lesson. These are all about an hour long. So the second one is defining and visualizing the work. So we introduce them to Kanban and creating a backlog of stories and adding the acceptance criteria. So these are the activities we do in there. We talk about in the backlog, what does it take to do the work? And then in the acceptance criteria, how do you know if you're done? How do you know if it meets the requirements? So that is our second session. The third one is estimating and prioritizing. So we have an activity that was in person, it was dog planning poker, but virtually it's dogs of different sizes we show them like, and I can't remember what the dogs are, but there might be a Chihuahua and some other sizes up to a Mastiff, and we equate those to story points, 1, 2, 3, and 5, I think is as far as we go, and just say, it's not so important to get the estimate right, but know that we are introducing relative estimating, that you can tell that a Mastiff is much larger than a Chihuahua. So as we get into the next lesson and introducing the planning, then they'll be able to kind of figure out how much work they can do, and they can't just do a certain number of stories. It depends on the size and the complexity. And we also introduce them to prioritization. So we have an activity now where they're going to build a flyer for a post-COVID party. And we say, there's a million things you could put on this flyer, but you're not going to have time to do them all. So you need to decide what's most important and do the work in that order as much as possible. So estimating has always been, in my experience, the most difficult concept to get across. So if you all have better ideas than dog planning poker, I'd love to hear them. So, and then the next to last session is adding structure. So we introduce them in this one to all the Scrum, I think they're events, the sprint planning, the daily Scrum. There's not very many activities in this one, or it doesn't lend itself to it. So at the end of this one, we have a Kahoot game, and it reviews all the things in the previous module. So just a little friendly competition. That's probably the funnest thing we do, unfortunately, when we're virtual. When we're in person, there's lots of fun activities we do. And then the very last session is we let them practice. So they built their stories about this fun party that they're going to have, and we have them actually design the flyer. We do 2 sprints so that they can have a retrospective and apply things that they figured out that, hey, we could do it better if only this. So that one is jam-packed. I think they do have a lot of fun with that one, even virtually. But it would be nice to get back to our in-person, which was paper airplanes and Legos. So let's go to the next one. We've had a lot of learnings to date, and we continue to learn from our pilots, and especially going virtual for the first time. From our teacher sessions, We learned not to pack too much into it. So between our teacher sessions and the current pilot and our student sessions, to which we did all the sessions and then we did the student, we learned that our sessions were long. Things that went pretty smoothly in person took longer virtually. So we built in a buffer. We took a few things out. We explained the terminology better and then helped them with their retros. And then also keep them informed. Here's what we covered last time. Here's what we're getting ready to. And we actually do a review in each lesson also now with the students. So the teacher sessions informed our students. In our student sessions, we learned that maybe all the students don't exactly know how to navigate in Zoom and on the Jamboards. So we will probably end up after these sessions are over, maybe adding a 6th session to, if we're still virtual, to teach them that navigation. You don't lose time there or get frustrated. Also that we needed to kind of simplify some of our terminology. I still think we have to introduce them to the correct terminology, but our examples, we're getting simpler to explain, you know, what is the concept of transparency on a board, that it's a way to view it and know exactly where you are. And so not to emphasize the terminology so much, but emphasize how we apply it and what does it mean to them. With our volunteers, we learned the students do better if they see the same leaders in every one of their sessions. So when the students go to their activities, they're in breakout rooms. So we try to have the same volunteers each time. And we train those volunteers before each session so that they're familiar with it. And then we need more volunteers when we're virtual. That's the other thing we learned. So Capital One has a policy that we are never alone with students in a breakout room. So we must have at least 2 volunteers, even if one is just keeping the time, just to kind of protect us and them. So we need additional volunteers, which has made that volunteer, the lead of the getting the volunteers role very important. And then we also need those volunteers to teach the students how to navigate and to keep them engaged and help them understand the purpose of the activities they're doing before they come back to the breakout room. And again, we're also starting the weekly emails to help the teachers prepare the students for what they're going to be learning and why. Okay, so possible partners. I think before the session started, we talked about this. We've been engaged with both scrum.org and Scrum Alliance, getting their input on how we should run our sessions, informing them, and then also speaking to them about what they're developing and what resources they can provide to us, can and will, and thoughts. And they're very interested in this themselves. So it's been a good partnership and a learning exchange. And then our future engagements outside of Capital One, Scrum gatherings, meetups like this. We do like to speak at conferences, but this virtual stuff kind of shut us down this year. We also intend not only to go for the Agile conferences, but to go for education conferences so we can, you know, spread the word and get ideas. But this is a very, very rewarding program, both for the students, teachers, and additionally for our volunteers. So, and it's very practically useful. So, okay, here's some resources. I think there's some in the Slack and the chat channel also, but there's some videos on this link, and you all should have this link available. And then I think that Grandview Prep School, that's the Mike Bizdos video, I believe, where they're applying it there. And then the Agile in the Classroom, the Scrum Alliance official case study.